Hey guys, it's me, Justin, back again with another tutorial video for the Lamborghini ST for our ESR ACC ST Academy. Couple things to go over first. Zandvoort is a really hard track to get a fully, consistently, great lap time. I feel like there's always at least one corner where you feel like you can do better, and so I really struggled to get a lap that I felt was both fast and also hit the marks that were something that I would feel comfortable putting out. So I'll go along the way. I'll correct any of the things that maybe I feel I could have done better looking back on now, and I'll try to get this lap out here for you guys. It's not stupid fast, I don't think. I think it's, probably obtainable by a few people, kind of like Monza. But it all depends on how well you vibe with the track. I think it was a 40 something, like a 40.3 or something like that. 39s are definitely possible. I would say if I was running this car in a series, I could probably even hit a 38, a high 38 in like qualifying. But it would take me a bit more. You can see I ran a bunch of laps here trying to get something I was comfortable with and get the car dialed in. This is all my tuning and whatnot. So heading down the turn one. So let's see here. Braking marker is typically going to be this line that goes across the ground right there. It's tough to see because there is a sign, but right there, this sign on the left, you could use that as a braking marker as well. And you don't have to brake with your nose so that's perfectly lined up with the braking marker, but that is a marker that you use at a certain distance from your eye, your car, those are the two markers. The line that goes across the track, which is right there, that line right here, and then that sign. Either or, use those to your heart's content. You're going to get hard on the brakes here, stay left, and then loop down inwards. So we're looping down, and here I get a decent run, but you notice very slightly the car kind of bogs a little bit because the traction control kicks in. Ideally, you can just kind of hook it through here, and the car doesn't want to slide at all, and you're able to just really get a crazy run out of here. For this first section, I'm missing a few tenths on compared to my optimal, and 90% of that is going to be getting through this first corner. If you really nail it, you're going to be in a good spot. You want to get on the gas really early too, as early as you can, to use all the banking in that little bowl section there and get right out to this curbing on the left here. Okay, next, this curb's on the left. You really don't want to touch them and go up on them. You could bump it a little bit, but you really got to be careful. And also, all of these high curbs in turn 1, this here, turn 2, the next part up here to the right, and the inside of the next hairpin to the left, all of those curbs, if you with repeated abuse, will give you a flat tire. So be careful. You can definitely lose air pressure hitting those. If you hit those on low pressure already, you could risk a flat. So just be aware that these are the type of curbs that are going to damage your tire, and you're going to get bad performance out of your tires if you keep hitting them. So, you can afford to bump them here and there, but at the end of a 30-minute run, you're going to have problems. When we ran here in the Sunday series, I had really bad problems with one of my tires, to the point where the car spun on me twice on the last 2 laps because I had no pressure left. The tire was basically flat. So, and that was pitting with 30 minutes to go, like at the halfway point. So be very careful. Tires here, because although the tires can last pretty long, this car can have degradation fairly badly in the left rear, and then bumping these curbs will end your day pretty abruptly and pretty suddenly. So anyways, hold to the left here. Typically I use just before the end of this curbing here as a point to jab the brakes and get the car pointed. So I'm coming up to the end of the right here. As I'm coming up to the end of this curbing, I'm getting on the brakes and getting the car pointed. And you want to get on it as soon as you can. Get tight to the inside, but don't accidentally turn. There's like the elevation change. The slight hill on the inside there gives you more grip than you think. You don't want to bump that inside curb. It'll upset the car. It'll throw it over to this wall. And then once you hit this grass, you're a passenger. You're going straight into that white wall over there. But you really got to just kind of throw it through here, get a feel for it, keep the car steady, get right back over somewhat to the right. But this next corner has a weird apex. I'll show it to you here. So get back over to the right, but middle right. This one you kind of want to come out and back. You kind of want to do this looping apex type deal here. See how I'm away from it and then I'm back down to it and on the gas? So you really got to loop it out to get you the best run possible through this next section. And holding the inside of that hairpin that I just went through, the car is going to get really slow. You can run a decent lap like that, but it's not how I would advise taking it. I normally take the loop, the diamonding it. You loop out and loop back in. So you can take a little bit of that white on the inside there. Just make sure that you're really getting the car's weight to shift through here, or else you'll wash out at the top. Oops, I'm sorry. Here we go. Where you get to wash out the top. I'm using this this orange barrier here in this ambulance for my braking marker. As I get up to it, I lift and brake. So here we go. You might not have to go down to third gear. It's optional. I prefer to get third gear in. I feel like it rotates the car a little bit better. But you could stay in fourth if you want. Get her down to the inside and get a good run out of the corner here. So you can get on the gas well before this inside curbing starts. Do not hit the inside curbing. Try to stay off the outside curbing. This car is fairly forgiving on both of these fronts, but hitting this inside curb or hitting the curb on the outside on exit, especially if you go wide, there's like a weird bump in the sand. The car will just throw itself up in the air and you'll be in a bad spot. But don't hit this inside curbing, you're a spin. And you can see I feathered the throttle there because I didn't get quite as good a groove I thought, and I lost a little bit of time from that. Ideally, you're just a fraction bit more patient than I was. And that way you avoid it. But notice I didn't go out wide over the sand there because the car will pop down on the ground and get loose. And then here, braking here is kind of tough. I'll be honest with you, I don't have a very good brake marker. I kind of go by feel, and this is one of those sections I feel like I personally could improve on more with some more time in the car. I know that I brake after this sign here for sure, right? And then I usually, there's like this weird kink in the road where it starts to bend straight. I typically brake once I can't see the previous portion of it. So let me slow this down here in reverse. I start braking when, see how I'm still turning to the left, how there's this kink here? Once I get my car lined up with this portion of the kink, that's when I brake in this car, but it's a little bit different in other cars. So boom, on the brakes, get it turned in. You can take more of the inside curb than I did, but watch out because the larger curb will throw the car. And to be honest, I could probably carry a bit more speed through here, but this car sometimes feels like it just wants to push on exit. Because I tried to get it set up so that it wouldn't oversteer here, but you got to be really careful. This is one of those corners I will suggest get comfortable pushing here, because when you get it right, you gain a lot of time. So I definitely could have carried more. I'm using this sign here as a brake marker, but it's kind of tough. Typically, I wait for it to get to be about a certain size, and that's when I use it to brake. Going into this section, you don't want to be too hard on the brake, or the tires will lock, or the car won't turn in well. What you need to do is be very smooth on the brakes, and you don't need to do a full 100% on the brakes. I'm sorry, I didn't have the HUD on. You don't need to be a full 100% on the brakes. You kind of need to get on them and then get off them, smoothly. Notice I'm carrying partial brake. Eventually you'll feel the nose hook, and once the nose hook, then it's time to get on the gas. So get on it. Get it off to this right here. You don't need to go all the way out to here. You can if you carry more speed, but I found in this car, the more speed I carry to where the car wants to push out to there, the more the tail gets really happy shifting weight. So I found this line was a little bit safer and a little better for me. I think, a speed demon will definitely find more time in this section, though. It's a comfort section. The more practice you have, the harder you can push through here. And then you want to get back over to the right. I use this barricade as a braking marker. Again, I'm not braking so that I'm perfectly lined up with it. I'm using it as a visual reference. boom, on the brakes by the time I hit it. You can see, don't brake too hard for this corner. If you get on the brakes all the way or you brake too hard for this corner, you're just going to lock up and get into the dirty stuff over there. You really just need to get the car slowed down enough to turn in here, which is what I do. Half brake, roll off the brake. In fact, the car, I broke a little bit too much because all of a sudden it felt like the car hooked up for me. You can definitely carry a bit more speed than I did through here by braking just a tiny bit less. But again, I call this section the parking lot because it's so much track. There's so much width. There's probably 4 or 5 different lines you could take through here where you get out decently. And so it's really hard to get right. And a lot of times if you try to take that wide outside line, someone might try to do some weird inside line that's way slower but will totally goof up your apex. So just be aware that there's a lot of ways through this corner. And typically you want to, brake out wide. Brake gently so that you get it turned in. Don't brake too much here. You can carry more speed than you think. And it's a fairly late apex. In fact, I could have even maybe apexed it a little later, but didn't really need to. Come out. Again, when you carry more speed, when you get maximum speed through there, the car will want to push all the way out to the corner because you're just carrying so much speed, but that's okay. Down through here, you're flat, 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 flat. You can go up to 5th gear, but for the purpose of this, I just stayed in 4th to save the shift. There's a white line there. Anywhere between that line and where the curbing starts, you really got to get comfortable with how you take this corner. If you're carrying in more speed and you're jumping the curb a little bit on the right here before you go into that hairpin section, then you can brake a little bit later. But if you're someone that wants to get the car more settled and set up so that you can get through that section a little smoother and maybe get a better exit or a better mid-corner speed, you want to brake a little earlier. This is one of those weird braking zones, in my opinion at least, where depending on how you drive, you might want to brake differently, and depending on how much control you have over shifting weight on the brakes once you're through this section. But it really depends. I would say the fastest laps you're going to get braking late and then cutting the curb, but don't focus on that too much. Here I broke pretty late. You hear the car smash. I get it stopped. I go up over the curb, get the car turned. The rear end wanted to float on me there, but it's okay. Get it turned, and again, I come out kind of wide here. There's all this curbing here. Don't go up against this black wall. You can put tires off on this grass without dirtying your lap sometimes, but don't do it. It's slow and it's not good. Again, for the exit here, I probably could have pinched it down a bit more, but it's just, there's a couple different ways to come through here, and some, there's a pure pace way to do it that's definitely the fastest, but this is fine for demonstrative purposes. Coming through here, I'm using this Marshall post another Marshall post here to help me know when I want to lift and brake. Lift, downshift. I'm barely braking. I'm really just using the downshift and just a tad brake. You can put your 2 rights on this this curb if you want, but the thing is, it makes the corner into a negative camber turn, and that typically will make you slower. Coast through, get on the gas again. Careful, you can get a little bit of oversteer coming out of there, especially when it's whipping. And then you want to turn in as late as possible. The later you turn in, the less you might have to feather the throttle. Like I said, I had a bit of understeer issues coming out of the corners. And again, you can put a couple tires off on the dirt on exit here without dirtying the lap, but it's not clean, and you're going to pay for it later in the race when eventually you get tire damage from hitting curbs too hard. But more or less, that's a lap there. I want to say this was a 40.3. It's nothing super spectacular. It's going to pop up here any second now. Yeah, that's a 40.3. It's nothing super spectacular, but you can see that's how you get around here. Obviously, this track has a lot of feel to it. You really have to feel it. And, the section that I call the parking lot, you really gotta get comfortable with how you're gonna get through that section and where you're gonna brake. And I'd love to say, brake here every time, but your braking point changes drastically depending on how much speed you're able to carry through there, because it's such a weird, sweepery, momentum-y kind of section. So, you just got to do what you got to do to get through there and feel for it. Feel all the way through. But anyways, I'll catch you guys this weekend. Have a good one.